Cool. Just being aware that everything lags as the live begins. It says we're live. Don't know what to make of it. Oh yeah, admit. Just bringing Divya on. Yes. Ah, yes. There you are, beautiful soul.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. Yourself?
Can't hear you. Is that me? Yeah, that's me. Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Okay, cool. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Oh, better do some buttons up.
Oh, I thought that was part of the look.
Majesty.
The tapestry.
You like the hair flick?
Fresh velvet behind you. It looks like you know, the buttons.
Getting crazy. Have you ever looked at yourself like it and been like, oh, this is right? No. Oh, I know. I didn't know this was what I was going to look like when I was a little boy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, didn't know that I'd be growing into like a human that looks like this, and it's kind of still, it's curious to my energies. Like, I catch myself in the mirror like, oh, I look very like Viking-ish human. All right, I've got everything going.
Like as a little boy. Now that you've said that, I just had that thought. I wonder what you look like as a little boy.
Oh boy. Little and innocent, you know. We've got a few people on, so we're live. I don't know whether I've explained that. I haven't told you that. Like,
Yeah.
we're going live. We're all over it. We're on.
All over it.
Yeah, cool.
Which one are you using? Which one did you just put on your forehead?
I just put rose on, and I like it. It's like one of my favorite oils. Like, connects me to like the higher spirits. Yeah. The plants save me. All right, cool. I am gonna frame this a bit now that I say that. So I am going to bring in the ritualize it a bit, as I normally do when I'm creating a framework for a bubble for spiral, even though we're not going to be doing any clearings. We're going to be talking culture. So I would like to acknowledge some things. So welcome everyone. Welcome all of your spirits, and I'm grateful that you're here. I acknowledge the spirit of Mother Earth, Gaia, the All Mother, the nurturing and supportive energies. Thank you, All Mother. Thank you for being with us and for loving us and for nurturing us every day. We acknowledge your sentience, All Mother. We acknowledge how you communicate with us, and it may not be in words, but we love that you speak to us and you hold us and you talk to us in your own way. We acknowledge the All Father, sky above, and his beautiful consciousness, the one-eyed God, and that penetrative sun energy. We're grateful. We're grateful for you, All Father. We're grateful that you're here and the light that you bring. We're grateful for the Indigenous people all over the world, no matter where we're watching this from, acknowledging that there's the Indigenous spirit everywhere on the planet that's been holding this land since way back in the dreaming, no matter what nation or country or continent on earth, all the way back. And that resonance still lives on and is still around us, and we thank it. Specifically here where I'm on Yugambeh land, Bunjalung, Minjangul, Komba Mary, Nanya Nambuli Nuru, where I'm from, Gamilaroi, Gombaroi, Yama. Acknowledge the animal spirits that hold us and walk with us every day, whether they're physical animal spirits like our dogs and our cats, or whether they're the free birds around us, the cockatoos, the galahs, the kookaburras, the crows, magpies chortling outside. We acknowledge the fish and the whales. We welcome in our spirit animals to walk with us and help hold this container so that Divya and I can be in flow and be in a beautiful spirit together, and so that we can share and transmit what's meant to be transmitted here into this culture and into this world that we're creating, that we're all co-creating. We thank the higher spirits that vibrate between love and enlightenment that walk with us. And we welcome our ancestors to come down here into this temple together as we learn and we receive culture, and we step into asking about culture from a beautiful, loving place, and receiving and being able to learn and be open to new insights. We're grateful to the ancestors. You're welcome to come down here, ancestors. You're safe to come down here, ancestors, because we'll make sure that you can go back to the white light after all this is over. We will close the temple at the end and you'll be able to go back to the white light. So please step into this temple with us and know that we love you and that we hold you just as you love and hold us. And I ask all these spirits to hold this temple in love and above. And if any energies are trying to get in vibrating below that love, may they come back and transmute to love as well. Can you help with that? Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. So Divya, we've got a bunch of people watching. We've got a bunch of beautiful souls with us who understand what I'm like and how I transmit and how I share. And that's like a frame that I put on, and so beautiful. And we're all curious about what it is you are interested in, what your passions and purpose and what your story is.
Passion, purpose, and story.
Yeah.
Well, I am guided by one question in my life. One key question that's like the yogi's North Star that we use to direct us towards true awareness, true knowing. And that question, I wonder if you can guess what that is the one that I hold in my heart, and that is my constant reminder. It is a question of identity.
Is it as simple as who am I?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's simple but profound. Simple but profound. And it is at the core of all the yogic pursuits is the deepest, truest understanding of that question. Who am I? Who am I?
I'm just going to turn this light off real quick because I'm glowing. Yeah.
And still glowing.
Always glowing. Turn all the lights off. Okay, cool. Turn all the lights off in the room. Who knew that? All right, cool. Thank you, Divya. Thank you for your patience with me.
Yeah. So the passions and stories and the outputs, I could talk about the Intrinsic Brilliance Institute that I founded 6 years ago, or any number of different.
I like starting a story at the start.
I use that question to kind of anchor me into the metaphor that I kind of invite to hold for me, like is I see myself as a multi-layered house, and the different stories, there's different floors, have different parties happening in the different rooms, and so there's this epic mansion that exists that is this space, and my life's work is entering every room and partying with the people that are there in those rooms. And yeah, so I can speak more on like what the scriptures say about what those floors and rooms and all of that are. If that's something you're interested in, you question and guide, and I'll.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I love that perspective of, like you're saying, that you're a multi-layered house, and on the different floors there's like the different rooms and the different archetypes and different kind of parties going on there. I like that. I like that perception. That's beautiful. So, and as you said, the scriptures touch on that. That's new to me, but like obviously we can overlap everything, and I'm very aware that you're good at overlapping the different things. So how did you come to that? What's the start of this story, Divya? Where did it all begin?
Well, the start of this story. Well, I have been asking the questions that have no answers or ever changing answer since as far back as I can remember, like before I was even double digits. When the rest of the people in my grade and school were really focused on like, who's your favorite Backstreet Boy? Like, which one's the cutest? Like when that was going on in primary school, for me, I was in full blown like, what is the meaning of life? Like, why are we here? Who am I? What are we doing? Like, all of that was in my experience from a very young age. My first suicide attempt was when I was 12.
Your first what?
My first suicide attempt was when I was 12.
Wow. Can you go into that?
Yeah, so at that time, like being a questioner that had no training on how to ask useful questions, being a questioner that didn't actually understand what an enabling question is and what a disabling question is and what a useful frame is around questions. I made a lot of associations that weren't helpful for me at the time. And, you know, the world that we live in is very focused on productivity, results. We live in a very yang folk, like it's imbalanced towards the doing rather than the being aspect of things. So my focus was like, well, if all life ends in death, that must be the point of it. And if I get there faster, I'll be winning. That was one of the distortions that's like, let me win the game and get there quickest.
Wow. I've never heard that belief before.
That was one of them. There were many throughout the years. There were many, but I'm gifted with a very, very clever mind. And it really needed to be directed and schooled about what's a useful way to construct reality, because left to its own devices, it would just run amok.
Yeah.
And it did for many years. So, yeah.
So I'm hearing like it needed to be schooled, like other words that you just said, but like what is your experience of school? Like the word discipline came through then in the word, like how do you hold discipline for that mind now?
Well, now it's different because then I didn't have any distance from that. Back then there wasn't an awareness, there wasn't any sort of separation from me and my thoughts. There wasn't any awareness. So yoga is what changed my life. Yoga is what helped me understand I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not these feelings. I am not any of these things that come and go. And prior to that, even though, I mean, I did degrees in neuroscience, psychology, cognitive sciences, I had no awareness of what it actually means to know that, like, I have a mind the same way I have a hand. 2 of them, in fact, you know, like I have 3 brains. I have 2 feet. Like these are things that I have. Who am I? I am the driver of this vehicle.
What's your perception? You glazed over something like very, as the neuroscientist you are, as the mindful neuroscientist you are, and the very aware that you have 3 brains is what I heard you just say. Can you give a quick insight to that? Because I know that you know how to simplify that down to how you perceive it. Would you be able to share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So brain is defined as a complex adaptive neural network. And we, in fact, have the head, the heart, and the gut are all three bona fide brains, complex adaptive neural networks. And they, when well trained, work harmoniously with one another, and that's where our wisest decisions come from.
From all three together?
Yeah, when they're in sync with one another, when they're in accord with one another. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
And so you touched on that it was yoga that got you to realize that you have, that your mind is just the same as your hand, like that you have it, and that you're further back, that you're the driver of this hand, just in the way that you're the driver of these three minds. So what got you into that? Like, what were the steps?
Three brains, like mind being the three brains, the hardware, mind being the software. So like, but one mind, body and brain, body and it's one system that is inextricably intertwined, this body and mind. And so when we say body and mind, we think that they're separate, but that's just because that's what language does. Language distorts reality. Language distorts, and so it creates segmentation where there really isn't any segmentation, when in fact it really all just is energy. And so we work with what we have in the human phrase and in the human realm, and we be aware this is distortion. Everything that I say is a lie because it's distortion, because I'm speaking words, so it cannot not be. The Tao that can be told is not the true Tao.
Reading a book on the Tao at the moment, and every time I try to conceptualize it, I'm like, oh, okay, like it's out the window. But every sentence you're saying, Divya, is so like evident to you in your mind, but has so many layers to it. I'm just letting you know that, and I'm framing that for you beautiful souls watching at home, like where I called Divya on, being like, in the same way that I have three minds. And then Divya kept like flowing on. It's like, whoa, we need to like slow down and like put little chapters in. We could put a chapter in at every single one of your sentences and be like, dissect that. And I know that you do that to your own mind. So ask the question, how do you dissect that? Can we go into these multiple layers in the way that you said that you're a multi-layered house, right? A multi-story house with multiple rooms that are all very different in the same way. Like, let's all have that lens, right? When Divya's speaking about these multi-layers, right? Divya's referencing herself as a house, and that these different minds are, say, like different levels of the house, for instance, and that there's different things going on in different rooms. And really try to keep up with every sentence that Divya says, because I know that she moves fast, and we love you for it, and that's why you're here.
Okay, so this is straight from the Upanishads, which are ancient Vedic tantric texts, yogic texts, right? So it surprises me that as you know, I know your tantra is your background, and I don't know the extent of the overlap between that space and the tantra that I know and practice, which is let me zoom out a little bit in terms of there are different types of yoga. There's the jnana yoga, which is the yoga of understanding. Jnana yoga, the yoga of understanding. Then there's bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of heart, love, devotion. There is karma yoga, which is the yoga of action and selfless service. And then there is raja yoga, which is the kind of eight-limbed path, the noble path. So when people speak of what traditionally people understand yoga as, is if they follow Raja Yoga and then go down from Hatha Yoga and into just the one aspect of 8 limbs, asana practice is just one of that, and that's what people understand as yoga. Right? Yep. So that's just some context. So in Jnana Yoga, the yoga of understanding, we use the mind to understand the mind, and so it's a game. It's a fun game, and And there are, so these 5 layers, they're called our koshas. And a kosha means it's a sheath, basically. You can think of them as bodies. And I'll go from the grossest, which is the physical one, the one that's most obvious, down to the subtlest, right? So the grossest is our physical body, Annamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha literally translates to like food body. It's what we eat, it's our physical form, right? So if you think of coming into the house, that layer is the physical body. Mm-hmm. And that's the awareness of your physical body. So when most people start the yoga practice, they start with asana practice, and that's where they start becoming aware of the concept of, I have a body. I'm not a body, I have a body, right? Because before that, it's like, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that, I have whatever judgments, labels, stories, blah, 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 of interpretation of this body. And there isn't any kind of spaciousness between that is a body that I have, and when the mark of a sincere yogi, right, is deepening self-awareness, deepening self-acceptance. That is the mark of a sincere yogi. So we go from the grossest layer, the Annamaya kosha, we understand, okay, so this is my body. And that's when we stop resisting the I wish it was like this instead of that. And it's just, this is what's here. And the yoga practice transforms on the physical level from being kind of, I want to get to this pose, to let me adorn and worship this beautiful temple that I have. Let me clean the temple. That's what it is. It is, let me clean the temple. And it's an act of service and devotion. And that's in the Annamaya kosha, that physical body layer. Then you go one layer subtler than that, you come to the Pranamaya kosha. Pranamaya kosha is the prana, breath, life force, energy. That's the energetic. Yeah. And that's when the practice gets even more subtle and we incorporate the breath. And then we become aware of how we're breathing, the mindfulness of our breath. And we learn how to slow our systems right down. And sip the breath. And push out the breath. Lengthen to the count of 20. Retain the breath. We learn to use the breath as a vehicle to go deeper, deeper, deeper inside ourselves. And then we meet the Manamaya kosha, the yoga of mind, the structures in the mind. When we meet Manamaya kosha, that's the mental body, and that's when we can play with the thoughts that we're thinking, our samskaras are in Manamaya kosha. And so I think of that layer of the house as being, when we bring awareness, when we learn sufficiently how to manage our energy, which is really linked to the breath, then we really learn how to manage our, we become aware of the thoughts in a much more profound way. And then from Manamaya kosha, the next layer down is Vijnanamaya kosha, and that's the awareness body, the wisdom, intuition, basically. Intuition is that sheep. And that is when insight comes up for us. So basically, as we deepen our practice, we are able to access more and more and more and more found aspects of self. Yeah, so then we live in this space like most people operate in beta brainwaves as a default, like that's day-to-day operation for most people is in beta brainwaves. The yogi learns how to kind of choose the brainwaves. Most of the time I'm in alpha brainwaves when I'm operating and so there's a difference of what's my intention and learning how to switch the brainwaves. And part of that comes from just being intimately acquainted with these rooms in the house, right? And so and again, it's like with the world at large, when someone comes knocking, like when a trigger shows up, someone knocks on the door, most people will run out of the house, scream at the person like, why are you knocking on my door, and put their attention externally, stop doing that thing that is disturbing my peace, without the recognition of, if something answered the door, it's because something's in the house. It's in the house. If the house was empty, no one would answer the door. Like, so if we learn to orient to the inside, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm noticing who wants to run to the door when the doorbell's being rung. Those are the parts that need some attention. Let me spend time with those parts, and then we can be aware, like, what are the thoughts, what are the feelings? So the yogi knows how to orient the microscope, like they think of it as what's the word? Yeah, the microscope of their experience to which room in the house am I in at the moment? Which room in the house? So coming from Vijnanamaya kosha then is Anandamaya kosha, which is the bliss body. The bliss body, which is the those that have touched Anandamaya kosha will never not smile on the inside, because no matter what's going on the other layers of the house, there's an awareness of all is well on that floor, you know. And I find it funny because I didn't know that this at the time, like now it's funny to me, but at the time I didn't know, like, all I have to do is stroke this and I can put myself into roaring orgasm from just the third eye stroking that brings me into contact with Anandamaya kosha, you know, that bliss body. And whatever waves are on the surface, like, okay, so I noticed on the level of Anamaya kosha, there's a pain in the foot. That's there, you know, there's some sharp throbbing sensation we label as pain in the foot, and the yogi can be aware of that simultaneously, and also just have many layered, like, contentment exists on that. And then beyond all of these 5 koshas, behind all of these sheets, that's where the true us really is. Beyond all the 5 is the jiva, the soul.
So Anandamaya kosha, I just, as you shared that around, like, that we can go from orgasm and bliss, like, so simply, it's right there under the surface if we want to touch on it. But also it's is that the same level that deals with pain, because it deals with bliss. I saw this spectrum happen, that, like, a lot of people all of a sudden, like, we can be here in the blissful end, but it's also the layer, if we're not tuning into it or not bringing focus to it, that we can end up in a lot of pain on that level. And say, like you said, for example, we have a pain in our foot, but I know a lot of people who live their life in pain in general, like have general back pain or like chronic pain, for instance. It's like, or maybe won't go down that road, but like would you say, like, that's all on that layer? It's all, like, centered on that layer?
Yeah, so if you want to think of a continuum, because if you're thinking of a spectrum, what you're from one end of the spectrum is the grossest, and then the subtlest, basically. So we've got the and that's one continuum that we can be aware of, right? So we've gone from physical all the way down to the subtle, and then another continuum can be judgment, which there's preference that's like, I like this sensation, I don't like this sensation, because the reality is all the sensations exist. Like it's all the sensations exist, and it's the continuum of judgment that says, I like this one, I don't like this one. I prefer not to have this sensation. I call this one pain, and pain's a bad thing, and I don't like it. That's on one part of the spectrum, and on the other one's like, oh, I like feeling good. I like, pain and pleasure. It's on this spectrum of judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when the yogi just observes, this isn't necessarily preference for one or the other. It's all there. Depending on where I tune my microscope, I'll access it. It's in every moment there's pain, and every moment there's pleasure. It's just how am I tuning my microscope? It's all there.
What would you say the opposite end of the spectrum? Because I'm trying to do a map, because my mind just maps things, right? And I want to make it a quick question. It's like gross to subtle is where we were going from in those 5. Cool, beautiful. And then you just touched on judgment. If judgment is a spectrum,
another continuum. Separate continuum.
A separate continuum. So
there's
what's the spectrum? What are the poles on that spectrum of judgment? Do you have frame for that?
Yeah, so you could call it pleasure and pain, like, dislike. You could call it, that pleasure and pain. It seems most humans, the human moves towards pleasure and away from pain. This is what the human does.
Yeah.
Right? And when we know, okay, I have a human that's going to do that. I have a human, my mind is going to do that. My mind will say, I like to feel good. I don't like to feel bad. I can witness my mind have those thoughts and those opinions and be like, that's nice.
That's massive. That's absolutely massive. I'm really feeling that. No, I don't know whether it's just because we dropped into a temple together and I'm really feeling that. Because I've been leaning more into this. I like how you say it's like pleasure and pain, or like and dislike kind of thing, because I've been leaning into that. I make myself uncomfortable quite frequently. And I know a lot of people are kind of like, why do you like pushing yourself to that degree when you're working out, or when you're swimming really hard, or why do you like sleeping outside, or I get told all the time, surely you're cold. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have this experience of cold being like a bad thing. And so and Bear's been speaking about it and learning more about it, my housemate, just get real blunt, and he's been learning that it can be a thing that helps us live longer, for instance. And I know that you touch on that. If you want to touch on discomfort being a tool, a practice, that's something you use for coming into center?
Well, it's skillful means. The yogi will kind of push to the edge of where is the edge of the comfort, and let me just lean into it. So it's that recognition of, let me just lean into where the edges of this feels comfortable. And rather than, because when we push too far, we put the body into stress, and that's not useful. And that's another form of striving. I want to get here, I want to get there, I want to have this experience, whatever. And when we pull back and avoid it, I don't want to be comfortable. It's 2 ends of the same spectrum. I like being uncomfortable, I don't like being uncomfortable. Either way, there's an opinion about comfort, rather than what's here in this moment.
I like that. Beautiful. So tell us, what comes up? What comes up for me? What gets you the most excited? What's the most exciting thing in your life at the moment that you really like to share about?
Well, I really, really love working on the layers of the sort of the pranamaya kosha, manamaya kosha, and the vijnanamaya kosha. These are the spaces when people go beyond the gross physical body and they recognize, they come to that space of awareness of, I have a body, I am not my body. I have a mind, I am not my mind. I have feelings, I am not my feelings. I have emotions, I'm not. When they come to that space, that's the thing that really gets me excited, is working in these more subtle layers to come to a place to really, really come to the core of who we are. And because it's such an individual thing, no one can, this is us and us alone can do this for ourselves, right? I can't explore your house, only you can.
Yep.
You know, like you're the only one that has entry to all those rooms. And the beautiful thing is they're ever evolving and ever changing. And so this ongoing, like, what's happening in the house today? Like what parties are going on in which rooms, and what's, you know, like, oh, there's someone crying down the corridor over here. Oh, there's some story that was told about, you know, and so just being able to bear witness to all of that is deeply fulfilling, deeply satisfying, deeply enjoyable for me to be able to. I call myself like a flashlight holder. I hold the flashlight, you know, as people kind of explore the rooms. Because I when most people, and this is new for me, this is a relatively new awareness. We have a training called the Illuminator Coach Training, and at the last one, are you familiar with the Johari's window? Do you know what the Johari's window is?
No.
Okay, so the Johari's window is basically, think of a quadrant. There's like one square is it's known to me, not known to others. So it goes from, if you draw it out, so known, the two axes is me, self and others, basically. It's the two axes.
Up and down is self and others.
Self, one axis is self, another axis is others.
Yep.
Self and others. So in this quadrant is known. So it's known to me and it's known to others.
Yep.
Right? So that's there. And this quadrant is unknown to me, unknown to others.
Is that opposite?
Opposites, yeah. Unknown to me, unknown to others.
Yeah.
Right? As you would draw the quadrants. And then there's that known to me and unknown to others. That's the stuff that we like. I know about this, but I hide it away. That's what you would call shadow work, right? The I know, but I'm scared to let other people know. And then there's the space that's known to others, unknown to me. And that's what most coaches play in the space of, like that quadrant in Johari's window, which is the concept of, I can see things that you can't see. Let me reflect those things back at you, back to you. The word coach, I mean, the origins is a coach to get you from point A to point B, right? You get from point A to point B, you have a coach that will journey you from point A to point B. And so I'm like, it's not the thing. When in the last training I was working on, it's not coaching. The thing that I do, it isn't coaching. It isn't, because there's an awareness of what that destination is when you're going from point A to point B, and it's not that. And that was when I had an awareness of, I play in the space of the fourth quadrant of, I don't know, you don't know. Let us together uncover. Let us together go exploring, and I will hold your hand, and we can courageously journey into these spaces together and see what's there. Because a lot of people are really afraid to explore their houses. They're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to meet in there. And a lot of fear around, you know, that's what keeps people, that's why they run outside the house and say, stop knocking on my door. Because they're afraid to meet what's inside the house. It scares them, you know, and so I get that.
Yeah, and what I see, like, as you shared that as well, like, afraid of this human that's coming knocking on their house, in case that's a brave human like you that wants to help them see what's going on inside the house. It's like, no, don't prod, don't make me look behind that door, like, and so I shut off to everyone. I'm not willing to go within here, so no one else is okay to go inside here. We fully can shut off, or like shut off to a degree. I wonder about this. I speak about this a lot because I clear a lot of heart walls for a lot of people, a lot of emotions that come up and block the heart. Like you're speaking about, like, that on some, and I really have this firm belief that a lot of people, that we all have this, like, don't go through that door on some of the rooms within us potentially. It's like we only let people in to a certain degree. I might have a wife, I might have a partner that I feel like I love, right? But even on some levels, like, she's not allowed to look behind some of those doors, you know. What's that bring up in you?
Well, she's not allowed to look behind some of those doors. What is it that you're afraid of?
I get you. It's a vulnerability piece is what comes up, because I'm always leaning into looking behind those doors. But sometimes I find that, like, sometimes a door appears to me that I didn't even know was there, you know? And I'm like, oh, and it shocks me. And then it's like my partner asks, like, are we willing to look behind that door? And there's like this little boy in me that's like, no, don't look behind that door. And I'm kind of like there's got to be the space for it created. So there's so many layers to all of this. Like, how can we ritualize this and keep this safe we're talking about me. How can this be safe for me? Like, what's the space that's got to be set? Where are we going? What's the framework for it? Yeah.
That little boy is afraid that if that person, if whatever's discovered behind that door, that he won't be loved. That's what he's afraid of, right? He won't be loved anymore.
Fully.
He is lovable.
I vibrate.
The only thing, yeah?
Yeah.
So for us to say, you know what? I will be with you. No matter what we discover behind that door, I will love you. Not that person's job. It's my job. I will love you no matter what's behind that door. And when we commit to that practice for ourselves, then anyone can accompany us through any door if they're courageous enough to go with us.
Yeah. I'm enjoying sitting in the resonance of this, but I don't make the best interviewer when I just like sitting and pausing in resonance of things and people are like observing. So,
I encourage you to give other people the space to sit in it as well, because if you are sitting in it and resonating on an energetic level, those watching also are having the same experience. Hold space for them. Let them also sit and resonate with.
As it all, yeah. It's curious that this should come up. Actually, it's not curious. It's no coincidences. It's just I have been feeling like in my little boy since last night, just some things that went down, some financial pieces, and like personally, oh, look at me getting vulnerable and personal. Obviously, this is meant to be. It's like, I feel like my little boy has a lot of fears around money, for instance, or fears of like being held, like, and has simultaneously this desire to be like nurtured by a partner and simultaneously want to provide, and then has this, it's like massive pendulum swings in it around like, oh, I've got no money now, I can't provide. And like what you were touching on when you said, no matter what's behind that door, we can love him. It's like, there's still a part of me that doesn't love me unless I can provide.
Yes. And that part is not the same part as the little boy is not the same one as the one who wants to provide. So the first thing is to recognize those are two separate rooms in the house. And in one room, there is the one that's like, it's really important to me to provide. And how you would have a conversation with the one who wants to provide is not the same as how you would have a conversation with the one that's like, I'm really scared right now. I'm afraid that no one's going to look after me. And how might the one who wants to provide, you might say, hey, come over into this room. You can do some providing right now. This little boy needs you to provide him some love. This little boy needs you to provide him some reassurance. You want to support me in that? And have that quality of interaction between these various parts.
very live. I'm going to set an intention, Divya, that after this, and I've got the space to do it today, that I will have that conversation between those two rooms, and I'll share with you what goes down. Like I'll put it in writing. I'll be doing it in my journal, and that brings me to actually how you do that with yourself. You actually showed me a piece which really touched my heart, that you and impressed me at the same time. I shared a fair bit with you, that you have these conversations between the different rooms in your mind. So how did that develop? How long have you been doing that, and what's it look like? Where do you begin?
Where do I begin? Is I notice where I go towards the rooms where there's many rooms, many rooms. And some have some kerfuffle happening in them. And if there's a bit of kerfuffle going on, I go into that room and I'm like, what's here? Let me look. Let me witness. And I just witness what's happening in this room. So in this room, there's the kid that's like, I'm really sad. I'm really scared. And I'm like, oh, just be with you. And I just witness what's happening there. And when that part feels that it's, been honored, and it's carry on to the next room. So it feels like there's something that's there, and until the house feels quiet again. When the house feels quiet, I'm like, okay, everyone's sorted. I can relax. My work is done. And so that's what the knowing of my work is to attend to what's happening in each of these rooms. And the more we distract ourselves with what's going on outside the house, like what that person said or did, or external circumstances, or, I'm not like this amount of something or the other about money or what, like, it's not that. It's not anything that's happening outside of the house. Nothing that's going outside of the house is of any relevance. What's in the house is what matters.
So would you say that that's a goal for you every day, to be inwardly focused? Is it? Yeah, beautiful.
Because to know, so the yogi operates on the understanding, the presupposition, all is one. All is one. So when I know this intimately, I know this intimately. And all the secrets of the universe are mine for the knowing, as I am with them intimately in this space.
I felt the energy begin to wrap up in these last moments, just naturally. Do you have more to share? More to, like, what's some pieces that what's some insights that you've had? Actually, yeah, here's a piece. What's some insights that young Divya has known her entire life, right, that you just wish were common knowledge in society?
I wish it were common knowledge in society. Well, one key thing, which I am very privileged that I had such a contrastive upbringing. So I grew up with two very, very zealous parents, very dogmatic, but different religions. So that was really interesting.
What were those religions? We love hearing bits and pieces about culture in this group.
Yeah, so my mom is extremely Christian. She uses the word Jesus like it's the word and I love her to bits, and she's very, very opinionated that Jesus is the way, the only way. And my dad is Sikh, and so his religion is a little more inclusive. It's not this is the way, and yet still it's got like, as I said, all the religions are distortions. Anything that we put into the human realm is a distortion, because it's we're doing our darndest to bring it into the space from what we can experience inside the house, deep inside the house. When we go beneath all the 5 layers of the 5, we drop beneath all the koshas, then only can we really know spirit. We have to get through those 5, to really know spirit. And have quiet on every level, and then we're there in that space. And it's so in the world, when we bring that in the world, it kind of creates a sense of people want to share, this thing is the thing, right? And my younger self really had some awareness of so dad would say, this is the thing, and mom would say, this is the thing. And as a child, it was like, but I don't know, how can you both be right? Because as a child, we don't have the awareness to really understand the complexity in the spectrum. We really are black and white thinking is indicative of a level of maturity. So I notice in myself when I've gone into some this or that frames, and I'm like, oh yeah, how old is that pot? How old is that pot?
Right.
Because that'll be a throwback to that it'll be before the age of 7. If I'm in those frames, it'll be the pre-age of 7, there's gonna be some.
I'm going to repeat that real quick for everyone watching. What Divya's just said is that when she observes any time that her mind goes, it's this way or it's that way, it's black and white, her mind instantly goes, oh, the level of maturity here of perceiving black and white is like a dogmatic belief taken on pre-7 years old. So it's still living within Divya. And of course, it comes up for all of us, but anytime how we can practice this is that if we ever perceive left and right, black and white as only that and no gray area, no spectrum in between, know that it's coming from our little child, our inner child, before the age of 7, something that was taken on as a belief in there. And we can assess from there and just ask, well, the little boy or little girl or little whatever in that room, little child in that room, what they need to see the rest of the spectrum or perceive it as more of a gray area.
That child won't necessarily be able to do that, but our job is to meet the child where there is. That child could be 2 years old. So we can't ask a 2-year-old, I can't ask my 2-year-old to do algebra. It's beyond its capacity. I just need to be aware there is a 2-year-old. And I can't be asking things of it that I can ask of a 35-year-old. It's not the same. So with the level of awareness, it's okay, I see what's happening now. Let me witness that and respond accordingly, discerningly, because this child is freaking out at the moment. It's reached for the steering wheel. I don't want that child driving the Divya. That's not wise. Let the matriarch be more discerning. That's where she needs to be a bit firmer and be like, okay, shush. All is okay.
I love that. Beautiful. That was such a beautiful share. And it's curious that you mentioned that your father's Sikh, because I was thinking of the word Satsriyakal comes to me sometimes, which is a greeting in Sikh, and I learned that years ago to just make sure if I ever run into, because it's quite easy for me to spot a Sikh man. They wear really cool turbans and stuff, and in all honesty, if it wasn't in Australia, they'd probably be wearing a cool sword and stuff as well, and I'd be like, Satsriyakal. I love just throwing greetings to people in their home language, and it's so much fun for me. And I thought of that word 2 days ago, and I was like, I haven't seen anyone Sikh in a long while. But
you want to make it more respectful, add G at the end of it. So it's G.
Cool.
You want to make it a little more respectful.
What was that last bit?
You want to make it a little more respectful. Sat Sri Akal Ji.
I love that. I am learning more pieces of how to make things respectful, how to show up in the best way. Oh, yeah, one final question. Because you touched on that quote that I love of yours that we put in the bio for this around the spirit, the spiritual experience. You can't, like, however you worded it, I don't want to reframe it, can't remember it right now. What was it? And can you give us a bit of story?
We can't live a spiritual life unless we know what is truly spirit. Right? So
how would you advise people begin getting in touch with spirit?
To notice the distortions is the first thing. A mindful practice of learning how to witness when we have preference. That's not spirit. That's not spirit. If there's preference, I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this, whether it's money, warmth, what have you, that's not spirit. So we can't live a spiritual life unless we know what is actually spirit. Spirit is just the experiencing.
Spirit is just the experiences. I'm even going to write that down. So full acceptance, full love for the experiences, not preferences. Cool.
If you're interested in knowing more about it, I just started a book club, and the first book that we're doing is 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, and that book does an awesome job of explaining what is in their frame above the line and below the line, above the line of consciousness, below the line of consciousness. So asleep, like unconscious and conscious. And so that's the first book we're going to be doing. So if you want, I can pop a link to the book club in this as well. And you're all welcome to join. It's
We're joining Divya's book club team if you're open to it. Beautiful souls. So that's perfect. So we've actually been on an hour.
Yeah, right.
We are so good at, I don't know what we're going to, I'm in full, oh, look at me. No, that's a judgment. I'm liking right now the fact that it's been on for an hour and wrapping up. So I'm just catching that and assessing that perception of me and realizing that that's not spirit. Okay, I'm learning already. I've loved this, Divya. I've loved this so much.
So fun.
Cool. Beautiful souls. Ask any questions, right? Like I have been seeing, everyone's just loving you and no one's really asking any questions, Divya. Everyone's kind of just like rewording your words, and it's wonderful, and I'm sure you'll see that in the group after all this. And loving your explanations and depth and presence, Divya. Thank you for coming into space today, blah, blah, blah. Saying they admire and saying how profound and glorious. I'm grateful that we've done this. And you'll post your book club and we'll get to weave in cultures with each other, and that's glorious for me and for spirit. One final thing. Thank you, ancestors, for holding this container. Thank you. Thank you for my spirit for being in this temple with Divya's spirit. If any of you, any of the ancestors with us need to go back to the white light, go back to the white light. We love you. Know that we love you. Thank you, animals. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you, Father Sky. Thank you, everyone that's with us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we're grateful to you all and for everyone's, all the layers to who you all are, for all tuning in here. Thank you so much. And thank you, Divya.
Good job. Good job.
Let's wrap this up.